And then I have a sidebar here which has nothing to do with the message. But because the Corinthians were such an unusual church, and Paul talked about the length of a woman's hair. He said of man's hair, if it's too long, it's a shame to him. If it's a woman's hair that's long, he said it's her glory and her honor. Paul had to deal with the church at Corinth because they get all mixed up in everything. The only good that Corinthians served was that through all their stupidities, we get the answers when Paul writes 1st and 2nd Corinthians. He actually wrote 5 letters and we lost 3 of them. Or at least these 2 may be a composite of the rest. I don't know. But we just got 2. He wrote 5. So here's a sidebar which has nothing to do with the message, but because it's to do with Corinth, I'm throwing it in. It says in 1 Corinthians 14, verses 34 and 35, this has to do with your women keeping silent in the churches. Did you ever hear of that belief among certain people? Women are not allowed to speak. I never met a woman like that in my life so far. Not so far. Verse 34, let your women keep silence in the churches. Now let's read what it says. First of all, he's speaking to the churches at Corinth. For it is not permitted unto them to speak. Mumble is the word from the Greek. They're not them, yakety yak, yakety yak. But they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. And if they will learn, there's the key. If they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for women to speak in the church. Here's what was happening. Look this way. It was peculiar to Corinth. They come in for a service. The men would sit here. The women would sit here. And somebody was speaking. Somebody is speaking out. And the woman over here, she doesn't follow what he's saying. Instead of waiting till she gets home and asks her husband or finds out some other way, she shouted across the aisle, What's he talking about? Disturbing the service. Making a mess of the whole service. Paul said that's no way for order. That's chaotic. Stop that. Don't do that. Women, be silent in the churches. And if you want to learn, if you want to get an answer to your question, it says, let your husband and you discuss it when you get home. But when you're in the church, you don't do that. However, the Bible talks about prophetesses. The Bible talks about women greatly serving the Lord. And so to take this as a general rule for every church that no woman is allowed to speak or to sing or to testify is an absolute nonsense and totally out of the context with what Paul says. I just want to stand up for you ladies. That's all I was doing this morning. And it has nothing to do with the message. In fact, when it says... let them keep silent. It's the same Greek word that he uses when he says if somebody speaks in tongues and there's no interpreter, let them keep silent, otherwise it'll only be a mumble to everybody. The women were mumbling, questioning what the speaker was saying. Paul said, no, well, we won't have that here either, whether it's man or woman, we would jump on you for that right away.